Okay, Bino Adonai Eloheinu Aleinu Maaseh Adenu Kohenai Aleinu Maaseh Adenu Kohenai. We're continuing with the class in Shaare Orah in the version that we have in the thumbnail, and we're basically on page Resh Kaf Aleph, and we're on the bottom of the page in the last paragraph Kof Yud Gimel Nikra HaShabbat Menucha. So we're discussing about the Shabbat and the concept of the Shabbat and the Menucha. So we're continuing on the bottom here. It says Katav Rabbeinu Bachye. Rabbeinu Bachye wrote. Yadua ki shisha sefirot pa'alu b'shesh yimei breshit. We know that the 6 sefirot functioned in the 6 days of creation. Kol sefira usfira biyoma. Every sefira had a function in the day. So the first day, the function was chesed. In the second day, the function was gvura. In the third day, the function was the tiferet, and so on. Kigon shetomar yom rishon bina. Oh, I got to think about this for a second. He's doing it in a little different order. He's saying Yom Harishon is Binah, which means he's starting counting from the Binah, not from the Chesed. Yom Sheni is Chesed. Well, strange. Yom Sheni is Machloket. Yom Shlishi is Givura. V'chen kulam ad shenichnas Yom HaShevi v'shu HaYesod. This is what Rabbeinu Bachye is saying. Until the 6th day, until the 7th day, was Shabbat, was the Yesod, upa'al pe'ulato, and he functioned according to its action. Uma hayita pe'ulato. What was the action of the Yesod? Ha'oneg ve'aminucha. The oneg, the pleasure, and the minucha, the resting. Ki hayita minucha la'atzmo, because the minucha was for him. U'minucha l'chol hashisha, for that sfira, for that one, for the Yesod and all the 6. Ki b'shvitato shivto kulan, because in the resting of the Yesod, from on that day, u'shvitato u'minuchato hu pilato, and because the shivita and the minucha is the pilah of the Yesod, he says, v'zeu ki shesh yamim asa Adonai teshamayim et haaretz vayanach bayom hashevi. That's what it says in Sefer Shmot, in the Aseret Hadibrot, that for 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, and he rested on the 7th day. Ki asa shesh sfirot ve'ishlim melachto bahem, because he formed the 6 sfirot, or he revealed the 6 sfirot, and completed the melacha with them. V'ayta menucha bayom hashevi'i, and the resting was on the 7th day. Shehu hayesod. That's where Rabbeinu Bachye. U'mashi yesod notenet hamenucha b'yer od hagra. And the fact that the Yesod gives over the Menucha, the Gra explained, B'Safra Ditzniuta, in the Safra Ditzniuta, which is a section of the Zohar. V'Kula Nayichahu Dargad Yesod, and all of them are basically the level of the Yesod. V'chen Amra Naomi, and this is what Naomi said in Megillat Ruth, Halo Avakesh Lecha Menucha Ayen Sham. Barucha shekol inyan hayichud naaseh al yesod, that the concept of the yichud is based on the yesod. Shemivi chayut u'kedusha u'bracha shezeh tachlit menucha, because the ultimate the sustenance and the holiness and the bracha is the fact that the yesod is bringing these things, and that's the menucha. And in the 6 days that the God created the world, there was created a mechitza, which is a border, and hester. What is hester? Hidden, right? Good. Okay. Liyichudo, for his yichud, which means the yichud of Hashem is hidden. A person has to look for it. The chasdo yitbarach eno nikar. And the chesed of Hashem is not clearly seen. A person has to look for it. Ad sheba'a hashabat v'shovtim kol yinei haolam iminyanei ester. And what happens on the Shabbat? On the Shabbat, the resting is revealed. Umitgalet shlitato yitbarach v'yichudo. And the yichud of Hashem is revealed, and the ruling, the shlita, is revealed. Umidat tuvo nirim ba'olam uchvot shamayim mitgaleh, and the midah of his goodness is revealed in the world, and the kavod of shamayim is also revealed. Uba'a menucha temet, and then there is the true resting. Le'olam v'chozer ha'olam nikdusha, and the world returns back to its kedusha, l'ruchaniyut, and to spirituality. Shehu sof tachlit ma'asav yitbarach, which is the ultimate purpose of the creation of the world, is to return it back to the source of menucha. Okay, I'm not sure what he's talking about here regarding Rabbeinu Bachya. I have to look down more. I don't know why he started with the use.
That the purpose was to serve Hashem.
It is, but the purpose of serve Hashem to return back to the source in Menucha. The ultimate goal of the creation of the world is the resurrection of the dead. That's the tachlit.
So what are we doing there?
Everything is preparing for the resurrection of the dead. Preparing for the Olam Haba, which is the Olam where the soul and body come together. Adam Harishon was...
Olam Haba, where are those who have departed? Aren't they in the Olam Haba without a body?
Okay, there's two Olam Haba.
Yeah, you told me that.
Okay, this is Olam Hazeh, physical world. And then we have the Olam Haba, which is the world that comes after the physical world. So remember you talked about Erech, right? So when a person leaves the life in this world, after a person passes away, the body goes in the ground, and the soul goes to the Olam Haba, the Olam, the world of Nishamot. But even in the world of Nishamot, there's an Olam Haba. What's the Olam Haba for the world of Nishamot? The world of the Techiyah. The world of the resurrection, where the Neshamot that are in the Shemaim now come back into a body and live in the world as a unified body soul in Nitzchius forever. That's the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is not the Gan Eden in the Shemaim. That's not the ultimate goal. It's the Gan Eden in the Aretz.
With a body.
With a body. That's the ultimate goal.
And it won't deteriorate.
And it will not deteriorate. Now, everything he just discussed over here sounds like something else. Let me read it in English, and we'll see if we can figure out what else it sounds like, okay? That the dominion of God is revealed, and his oneness is revealed, and the goodness of him and his honor is revealed. And when does this happen? This happens on Shabbat. So we have Shabbat for the days of the week. That's the Shabbat. We understand we have something called the Shemitah, which is the Shabbat of the years. And then we have the Shabbat of the Shemitah, which is the Yovel. But we missed one. What is the Shabbat of the months?
Rosh Chodesh?
No, not any Rosh Chodesh. Which Rosh Chodesh? Which is the seventh month?
Yes, Tishrei.
Tishri. What is the purpose of Rosh Hashanah? To reveal the kavod of Hashem in the world, to reveal the yichud of Hashem in the world, to reveal the memshalah of Hashem in the world. Umalchuto bakol mashala. His malchut is ruling everything. So what we just discussed about the Shabbat being this category where it reveals the holiness and the kavod and the honor and the dominion and the rule of God and the fact that he's the Melech, that's the Shabbat. That's the same quality of the month of Tishri. Why? Because it's the seventh month. Okay?
Wow.
Nice. So seventh day, Shabbat. Seventh month, Tishri.
So the whole month can be
Seventh
Shabbat.
year cycle, Shivita, Shemitah. The Shemitah, 7 years of Shemitah, Yovel.
All of them
All
can
them,
be considered Shabbat.
And what is about the Yovel? First of all, in Shemitah, what happens in the Shemitah? That all loans are forgiven. Goes back to the source, which means if you owe money and the Shemitah comes, you don't owe money anymore. What is the Yovel? All property goes back to its original owner. So we see the same qualities, okay, of the Shabbat. Okay, let's continue on. Zot menuchati adead. This is the menucha adead, forever and ever. Ketiv bayom hashivei Shabbat vayinafash. It's written in the Torah that on the seventh day, vayinafash. What is vayinafash? We translate that as rested. Okay, let's see what it says inside. Shinyan hanefesh, because vayinafash doesn't say rest, and he returned his soul. If you want to, vayinafash means and his soul was returned. I mean, whatever that means, we have to see what that means. Okay, the word is nefesh, right? It doesn't mean rest. We translate it as rest, but let's see what deeper meaning. Shinyana nefesh hu milshon shivita menucha. The nefesh, the word nefesh is from the language of shivita, resting, and menucha. Let's see how. This is in Nefesh HaChaim. Az hushlema hamelacha v'higia olam letachlito. Because then what happens is the world, the melacha, the creative work, is completed and the world arrives at its tachlit, which is purpose. Shiakiru malchuto. What is the purpose? So everybody will recognize that God is the melech. Shakol bara lichvodo, and everything was created for his honor. The melacha shel maaseh shamayim va'aretz, and the melacha of the maaseh of the shamayim and aretz, which is the creation. Hem briat haseter is a creation of what's hidden. Legilui kvodo, to reveal his honor, which means his honor is hidden up until the end. Okay, the job of a Jew is to reveal the kavod of Hashem in the world, but ultimately that revelation is going to happen regardless. The Jews hopefully will affect a lot of that, but ultimately Hashem is going to reveal Himself. Continuing on.
He doesn't need us.
What's that?
He doesn't need us.
No, he doesn't need anything. We talked about that. But he has the desire, ratzon, for us to be participating in his revelation. Okay? But now there is hidden. Why is there hidden? Because it gives opportunity for choice. If God was revealed, there's no choice. Yes? So because God is hidden, that gives people the opportunity to choose. The avodah shayamim, and the work of the 6 days, keneget sheshet alafim shana, is vis-a-vis the 6,000 years. So just like we discussed the Shemitah, we discussed the Yovel, there's also a concept of the 7th millennium. There's a 6,000 years of work, bechira, choice, and then there's a 7th millennium where there is no choice. There is revelation. The nistar is removed, and what is revealed is the kavod, and therefore there's no choice.
There will be no free will.
Correct. Ubesof ha'maaseh sheba shvita, and at the end of the maaseh, when the true rest comes, the ultimate rest is the olam ha'techiyah. Is revealed what was in the machshava in the beginning. The pasuk is sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila. The end result was in the thought in the beginning. Magid mereshit aharit. From the beginning, we know what's going to happen at the end. What was the purpose of all the work, all of the creative work, all the melacha? Legalot kavod shamayim, to reveal the honor of the shamayim, of Hashem, be'oro ukdushato bayom hashvi'i, in his light and his holiness on the 7th day. That is the job of the creation. And this is what we say in the Piyut Lechadodi. What do we say in Lechadodi? Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. To greet the Shabbat, we will go. We will run. We will go. Let's go and go together. Kihi mekor haberacha, because she is the source of all the bracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha. From the beginning, early on, it was already anointed. Sof maaseh b'mahashava tehila. The end result is in the mahashava in the beginning. Ayen Shar Aleph. Look in the first Shar. Shebet HaMikdash Nikra. What is the temple called? Mekom Menuchati, the place of my resting. Shigam Sham Hu Mekom Legelui Kvodo Yitbarach, because the Beit HaMikdash is also the place for the revelation of the Kavod of Hashem. Behashrat HaShekhinah, by the Shekhinah dwelling there. Benisim Giluyim, with revealed miracles. What does it say in Pirkei Avot? There are 10 miracles that happened every single day in the Bet HaMikdash. What does that mean? When you see a miracle, there's no choice.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody changes nature, it takes away the choice temporarily. So you see, when a person would go to the temple, they were having an experience of rest. An experience just by going to the temple, they have an experience of the Olam Haba. And that's why people go to the temple, and that would give them spiritual energy, because all the choices, all the doubts that they had would be removed as soon as they went to the temple. They would completely no more doubts, because you'd see miracles happening. There's no doubts. It would take away the choice. And then you come out. The goal, of course, is while we're in the world right now, we have the choice, okay? But when we get to the Nitzchiyut, when we get to the Tchat HaMetim, there's no more choice. Shigam Shamhu Mekom Legalu Kvodo Yitbarach. There is also the revelation of the Kavod of Hashem. Ve'ashrat Hashchina V'Nisim Galui Mashpat Orah. Ve'anu Omrim B'Kabbalat Shabbat. That's why we say in Kabbalat Shabbat, Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha. Mikdash, the temple of the king, is the city of the Malchut, the kingship. Kumi Si'i Mitocha Hafecha. Get up and come out of the overturn. What is the overturn? The world we're in now. We're asking the Shekhinah to come out of the hiddenness in this world to be revealed.
Wow. This is much better than before.
Chazak. All right. All right, that's that piece. Let's go to the next one. Ki'ilu Hashem yitbarach nach al bnei Adam. It's as if Kavyachol, that God is resting on people. What does that mean? Biera and Yam Shabbat Malkatah explained in a book called Shabbat Malkatah, Shelich Orah Kashe. At the outside, this appears difficult. Ma'u kinui haminucha klape mala. What is the concept, the nickname, or the concept of minucha vis-a-vis the Shamayim? Okay, the word minucha has a spiritual meaning. We think about it as resting from creative work.
Absolutely.
In the Shamayim, where is there a concept of resting? There's no effort.
There's no,
okay?
There's no action there.
Okay, well, there's action through the Sfirot. Yes, there's action, but where is the concept of resting? So he's asking, the question is, how do we understand the concept of resting as it applies to the spiritual world? Let's see what he says. Asher lo yiga v'lo yi'af, where there's no damages there. I mean, there's nothing, what is the concept of resting? It doesn't fly. There's no, you rest when you're when you're active, and then you rest. Why does a person rest? Because they're tired.
Absolutely.
There's no tiredness in the spiritual world. So what's the concept of rest? So that's the question. The question is, how do we understand this physical concept that we call rest vis-a-vis the Shamayim?
You don't sleep 24 hours.
What's the nimshal? So the mashal is menucha. Yes. What is the nimshal? What do we what spiritual concept is menucha speaking to? That's the question. Continue on. And what is ayafut, and what does it mean, tiredness and weakness? Chisaron. When a person is tired, what does that mean? They don't have any more strength. They're missing strength. You can't say that vis-a-vis Shamayim. There's never a situation where God is tired, because he's shalem, he's perfect. So therefore, there's nothing missing. So where is the chisaron? That's why the word minucha implies a lack of strength. How does that apply to? How does it apply spiritually? The imken ma'u minucha. What does this mean? Minucha katuv etzel Bore olamim shebara kol habriya be'ot klila. That God, it says here, Katuv etzel bore olamim, the creator of the worlds, shebara kol habriya, that created all of the creation, be'ot klila, then bo chisaron klal, but he has nothing missing. So what does it mean when it says that God rested? How does he rest? He's not tired. Bi'er Sham, he explains, Shinyan menuchahi. What is menucha? What is the spiritual understanding of the word of menucha? Shekol achayot hi ma shemetziut michuberet lemekor hachayim. Everything that is alive, why is it alive? Because it's attached to the source of life. Something that is detached from the source of life is dead.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Common sense.
That gashmiut and the material existence, that teva, nature, that esek bahem, and being involved in those things, which is were matters of this world, hitrachakut mimekor hachayim. It is distance from the source of life. Let's continue. V'lachen, mi she'oved u'mitasek binyanim gashmiim, a person who's involving himself in material pursuits, hu mitrachek mimekor hachayim, he becomes distance from the source of life. Umargish chulsha v'ayifut, and he feels weakness and exhaustion. The kasher nach, when a person rests, v'ifsika ta'esek begashmiut, and he stops his involvement in the materialism. The kol sheken sheishan, and like when he's sleeping, what is he when he's sleeping? He's resting, and that gives him the strength. When a person goes to sleep at night, they're exhausted, they're tired, they had a long day. They go to sleep, they wake up in the morning, they're refreshed. Venishmato ole lemala. Why is it that sleep refreshes a person from a spiritual point of view?
Because the spirit goes up.
And
It's clean.
nidveket biboro. The neshama leaves the body and goes to the shamayim, where it attaches itself to the makor hachayim. Shashena ehad mishishim mimita. The shena is 1/60th of death. Umekabel beshena, and when the body is sleeping and the neshama is in the shamayim, the body is receiving hiyut hadasha, a new life force. V'chozer umkabel kochot hadashim, and receives new strengths.
When we go up.
When we attach ourselves to the shamayim. Ve'amila ayef, the word ayef in Hebrew means tired. Meshutefet lemaseh avera, is connected to sin.
What's connected to sin?
The word ayef in the Torah. That ayef veyageya. We're going to read it next week, actually, in the parasha. What does it say? Next week's parasha ki tetzeh. What does it say? Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek baderech besetechem mimitzrayim. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you were leaving Egypt. Asher karecha baderech vayzenev becha kol hanecheshalim acharecha. Ve'ata ayef ve'yareya ve'lo yare Elohim. Translated, that he happened upon you on the way, and he went after the tail, the backside of all the weak ones. Neheshalim, from the word hulsha, the weak ones that were after you, and you were ayef ve'yageya. You were tired and you were exhausted.
So you couldn't fight.
Meaning, the lo yare Elohim. You were not fearful of God. So we see the concept of ayef and yageya is what? connected to sin. We have another place. We have another place in Parshat Chukat. What does it say? One second. ויסעו מהור ההר דרך ים סוף לסבוב את ארץ אדום ותקצר נפש העם בדרך, and they traveled from Hor HaHar, that's where Aharon died, the way of Yam Suf, to circle the land of Edom, and the soul of the nation became shortened, meaning what? Tired.
The
Jewish people became tired.
after they did
Next pasuk. Vaydeber ha'am be'Elohim Moshe, and they spoke against God and spoke Moses. Meaning, why did you take us out of Egypt to die in the desert? So we see once again, we have the concept of exhausted and tired, meaning what? Sin. Why is a person exhausted and tired? Because they're distanced from the Makor HaChaim. That's why a person gets tired. That's because a person is involved in the mundane works all day long. That's why you get tired at the end of the day. If a person is involved in...
You don't get tired if you study all day?
Okay, you get tired because you have a body, you have a physicality. If your body... the reason why you get tired is because of the physical, not because of the spiritual. Your soul is never tired. Think about it this way. Your soul goes to the Shamayim. How do you get re-energized? The soul goes to the Shamayim, which means it's the soul that goes to the Makor, draws from the Makor, that gives the body strength. But the soul is not resting. The soul is going and getting koach.
That's why the brain is never rested.
Okay, even in sleep, the brain is still functioning, yes? Okay, so we see from here what? Ayef is mishutefet lemase avera. So we see the concept of ayef, tired, is connected to sin. I gave you two places in the Torah. Oh, here's another example. Esav ba min hasadeh v'hu ayef. What says here? Vayazed Yaakov Nazid Vayevo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayef. And it says Yaakov made himself a lentil soup, a lentil dish. Why? Because Abraham died, yes? And Esav came from the field and he was tired. What do the rabbis over here in the Talmud say Esav was tired? 5 avonot Esav did on the day that Avraham Avinu died. He had relations with a woman that was engaged to another man, Esav. He worshipped Avodah Zarah. He denied the resurrection of the dead. He killed another person, Nimrod, and I can't remember the other one. And he worshipped Avodah Zarah. All in one day. And how does the Torah say it? V'hu ayef. If you look at Rashi, I think it's Rashi who brings it. Let me just double check.
Wow, the day that Yaakov died, he did that?
Not the day Yaakov, the day Avraham Avinu died.
Oh, excuse me, Avraham Avinu died. You gotta be kidding.
No. Let's see what Rashi is. Rashi.
And then he went to ask for the also for the lentils.
Rashi. V'hu ayef. What does Rashi say? Birtziha. He's tired because he committed the sin of murder. Kamad tema, like it's taught, ki ayefa nafshi lahorgim. Brings a pasuk from Yirmiyah that shows when the Torah used the word tired, it's from killing. The Gemara from this word ayef learns 5 other sins he did.
He was only 15 years old.
So what? So what? A 15-year-old can't destroy the world? Okay, so we see the concept of ayef with Sin. Sha'ifut mima'aseh ha'avera. Because tiredness comes, spiritual tiredness comes because of sin. Nituk mimekor v'shoresh hachayim. Separation from the source of life. And what is resting? Returning back to the source of life, getting energy, returning back, spiritual reawakening. That is called rest.
When you rest, when you sleep during the day, do you go up? No.
Not the same. It's not the same. Night is the key. I mean, but think about it. And what is the purpose of death? Why does the body die? Avonot.
To let
Avonot. Right? The
yes.
Gemara says, "En hanachash memit, elachet memit." The sin causes death. So the body, after accumulating enough sins, dies. The neshama goes to the shamayim, reattaches to the makor chayim, gets whatever it needs, and then in tchat hametim comes back to a body that doesn't get tired. Why doesn't the body get tired? Because it allows the soul to express itself completely, which means it doesn't sin. That's the resurrection. Now, how do we understand this vis-a-vis minucha? So we just described the spiritual concept of minucha. A person is tired because of distance from the source of life. What is minucha? Returning back to the source of life. Yes? That's what we just said. Good. The mashal of minucha klapei borei barach. So how do we understand the mashal of the boreh, the creator of the world, resting? Who? Shekol hashisha yamim hakadosh baruch kavyachol. During the 6 days of creation, it was as if God, asak ba'olam gashmi, involved himself in the material world. It's kavyachol. It's not real. It's just exif, understanding the language of man. Harachok me'oro yitbarach. And the problem is the physical world is a distance from his or. Ki'ilu kavyachol hitrachek me'esek olamo ha'elyon shehu yitbarach shochen sham. Because he was involving himself in the building of the physical world as if he separated himself from the spiritual world. It's teaching you something. God didn't separate anything. It's teaching you that God, kavyachol, needed rest because he involved himself in the spirit, in the physical world. If God, kavyachol, needs rest from involving in the physical world, you, of course, need rest from involving in the spiritual world. Okay? And it's as if, again, this is all kavyachol. It's not real. But it's as if when God was creating the world, kavyachol, he went out of his mechitzot of kedusha because he created a world that had aspects of not kedusha. Ad Shabbat, until Shabbat came. What happened when Shabbat came? The world returns back to its holy status. Umeir or ha'elyon shel kedushato yitbarach, and reveals the light from above of his holiness. Umistalek ha'olam hagashmi, and the world, the physical world, is removed. Umitgale oro yitbarach, and his light is revealed. Ukdushato v'chozer olam v'shav l'shosho, and the world returns back to its root. Shabbat milashon shav. So the Shabbat represents returning back to the root. The root is rest. Rest is connection spiritually. Shabbat is yichud between the Yesod and the Malchut. So there, the yichud is there. That's returning back to a status of rest. The rest of the week, what happens is we separate from that because we're involving ourselves in the mundane. Therefore, there's a separation that causes exhaustion.
I'm tired on Shabbat.
Why are you tired of Shabbat?
In the afternoon, after all everything we do, I get tired in the afternoon, so I have to take a nap.
Okay, you take a nap. But then what do you do after your nap?
Uh-huh.
What do you do after you take a nap?
Study.
Good. That's okay.
Not enough time to study so much, though.
Oh, we got to make time. We have 2 hours on Shabbat. That was pretty good. You weren't here this Shabbat. We did 2 hours this Shabbat. Okay. Someone said to me, well, why don't you start at 4? Because in the calendar it said 5 o'clock. I said, no, we're doing 2 hours. I'm starting 4:40 because they had to limit 6:40. So I said, I'll start at 4:40. He said, why don't you start at 4? I said, I could start at 3.
Wow.
Baruch Hashem, it's great when you do 2-hour class and you feel like you didn't do anything. You like there's so much more to talk about, and we had to stop because it was time for Tehillim. Incredible. Okay, we'll do one more. 12:14. One more? No. Yes.
Okay, let's do one more.
Okay.
They're waiting for me, but one more.
Kemelech. This is all relevant to Rosh Hashanah, by the way. What we're talking about now is all relevant to Rosh Hashanah. Kemelech al kis'o, like the king sitting on his throne. Okay. Gilui malchuto ba'olam, the revelation of his dominion in the world. Hu hanimshal lemelech yoshev al kis'o. When we say that the king is sitting on his throne, what do we really mean by that? The king is not sitting on a throne. What do we mean by that? It's the revelation in the world that the king is in charge. It's not that the king isn't in charge when the world doesn't realize it. The king is always in charge. But when we realize it, that means he's sitting on his throne. That's why it's called on Rosh Hashanah, we're mamlich. We make him a king. We don't make him a king. He's a king all year long. But when we accept upon ourselves the idea that he is in charge and he is running everything, that is kavyachol. We're putting him on his throne. Okay, let's go. K'moshe bi'er hamaral, like the Maharal explained in Gvurot Hashem, v'zeh shono. The Avki and Hashem Yitbarach Tzarich Likiseh, even though we know that God does not need a chair, does not need a throne. Mikol Makom Madregat Malchut Olam, the whole step of the world, the level of the world, Shehu Yitbarach Mitnaseh Alehem, that he is risen over, Nikra Kiseh Kavod. The world is called Kiseh Kavod. Hashamai, what's it say? Hashamayim kisi ve'aretz hadom raglai eze bait asher banu li eze makom menuchati. That's the haftarah for Rosh Chodesh. What is the haftarah for Rosh Chodesh? Now you understand a whole different aspect of what these pesukim mean, based on what we just learned now. It says here. Okay. Ko amar Adonai Hashamayim kisi ve'aretz hadom raglai eze bait asher tivnu li ve'eze makom menuchati. Let's translate that. This is what Hashem said, Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Shamayim is my kisei. What does that mean? The Binah is my kiseh. When is he sitting on his kiseh? When we recognize that he is the Melech. The haaretz hadom raglai. So when a person is sitting on a chair, right? Where are their legs? Their legs are below. Hadom raglai. The shamayim is where the kiseh of Hashem is. The aretz is where his legs are. Kav yachol, not really. Which means he's sitting on the world. When we make him the king, when we think about him as the king, when we recognize that he's the king. What kind of house are you making for me? Meaning what? When we make him the king, the world is his house. Veze makom menuhati. And what is the makom of menucha? Which means when we recognize him as the king, everything returns back to the source.
which is him.
And therefore he has menucha.
Amen. That was better than the whole one.
It's amazing stuff. So therefore we say nikra kiseh kavod ki en perush kiseh rak malchut, because the kiseh has to do with the throne. Who has the throne? The melech. Kmo rak kiseh gdal mimeka, like it says in Paro, when Paro appointed Yosef to be the number 2. What does Paro say? Rak kiseh egdal mimeka. Only the chair I will make it higher than you, which means I'm going to still sit in the chair. Paro said, you're going to be the number 2, not the number 1. V'chen katav Agam Vilna, the Gra wrote, B'perusho lahagadot Ravavach, he wrote in Baba Batra, B'inyan hakiseh gam ken yadua ki gdulat hakadosh baruch hu malchuto Yisrael, that the greatness of God and His kingdom, dominion with the Jewish people is, ukshehem b'shiflut u'b'galut, when the Jewish people are in low level, when they're in the exile, en malchuto shlema, his malchut is not complete. Why? We might recognize on Rosh Hashanah that he's the king. The goyim don't. We are doing our responsibility, which is Mamlich Hashem, but we have to recognize Rosh Hashanah is not for the Jewish people only. Hayom Harat Olam.
It's a universal.
It's universal. The problem with the goyim is they're still believing in nonsense.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's going to end. Lachen amru b'kriyat Yamsuf. Therefore, they said when the ocean split by the Red Sea, what does it say? Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. God will be king forever and ever. Ki en melech belot tzava. There is no king that doesn't have an army, which means he's still the king. But if he doesn't have an army, he doesn't manifest himself as a king. The en nikra Hashem tzvaot ad shigael tzvao v'yimloch alehem. When is God called the God of the armies? Tzvaot is from the word tzava, which is armies. Yud Kei Vav Kei tzvaot, which is the hod. Hod corresponds to Yud Kei Vav. No. Yud Kei Vav Kei tzvaot is netzach. Elohim tzvaot is hod. We'll see that when we get to the next chapter. It says over here, meaning what? When is God called Yud Kei Vav Kei tzvaot? When all the armies of God are taken out of Egypt. Who are the armies of God? The Jewish people.
That's Netzach.
Okay, we're going to see that name corresponds to Netzach. Where do we see that in the Pisukim? Where do we see that?
I see it in the Ashrei every day.
Second. Umosha b'nei Yisrael asher yashivu b'Mitzrayim 30 shana v'arba me'ot shana, and the amount of time that the Jewish people spent in the land of Egypt was 430 years. Vayhi miketz 30 shana v'arba me'ot shana vayhi ba'etzem hayom hazeh yatzeu Kol tzivot Adonai me'eretz Mitzrayim, and it was at the end of 430 years, and it was on this very day, which means the 15th of Nisan, went out all of the armies of Yud Kei Vav Kei from the land of Egypt. Who are the armies of Egypt? Who are the armies of God? The Jewish people. So when is he called Adonai Tzivaot? Only when the armies of the Jewish people were freed from Egypt. Before that, he's not called Adonai Tzivaot. He's only called it afterwards when the Jewish people are freed from Egypt. Why? Because how can he be called the king of the armies, the Yud Kei Vav Kei of the armies, if he has no army? Okay, so the name Yud Kei Vav Kei Tzvaot becomes relevant when the Jewish people are leaving Egypt. Okay, continue on here. Ubeshabbat shemitgale malchut shamayim b'bria. On Shabbat, when the ruling, when the kingship, when the dominion of God is revealed in the creation, omrim b'tfilat yotzer. What do we say in the yotzer? Ubayom hashevi'i hit'ala v'yashav al kisei kvodo. You listening?
Yes.
What does that mean? On the seventh day, he went up and sat on his chair. What does that mean? Why by Yom HaShevi'i? Because we are recognizing on Shabbat that God is in charge. Therefore, he's sitting on his throne. What do we do in the seventh month of the year? We recognize that God is in charge. That's called Rosh Hashanah. And what is he doing? He's sitting on Kiseh Din.
Din.
Judgment. That's Rosh Hashanah.
Orah.
Okay? Kidita bezorah chadash, like it says in the Zohar. Amari, Amarav, Amar Yosef, Amarav, Lo yashav Kadosh Baruch Hu al kisei kvodo. God did not sit on his kisei hakavod ad sheba'ah Shabbat, which means for the entire 6 days, God did not sit on his throne until the Shabbat came. V'nit alav yashav al kis'o. And he went up, he sat on his kiseh, meaning what? Adam lived. He was in the sixth day. And then he was supposed to, in the Shabbat, recognize God is in charge. That means God was sitting on his chair. But he wasn't sitting on his chair on the first 6 days. First of all, there was no man existing until the sixth day. But even the sixth day, he wasn't sitting on his chair until the seventh day when Adam was supposed to recognize that he's in charge. Ele hachitanenan ad shelo nivra olam. Until the world was created, lo haya mi shichanes lakadosh baruch hu yakiroto. Until God created the world, there was no one to recognize that he's the king. Right? Kevan shebara olamo, when God created the world, bara malachim, he created angels, the chayot hakodesh, other types of angels, the hashamayim, and v'chol tziva'am, and all the armies in the shamayim, ubara et ha'adam, v'kulam muchanim l'shabech li'otzam. What did the angels do all day long? They sing praise of God, which means already from the sixth day, or the second day, the angels are singing the praises of God. They were created. But why is that not the same? Why is it when the angels are singing the praise of God, it's not the same as when man does? Because man has choice. Angels don't.
Why are you comparing those two angels?
Because we have the same function in some ways. They sing to God. We sing to God. The difference is they have no choice. We have choice. So when we choose to sing to God, that's what puts him on his throne. ועדיין לא היה פאר ושבח לפניו. And even with Adam created, it still was not sufficient until when? Until the Shabbat came. Once the Shabbat came, v'shaketu kulam, and all of them were quiet, upatzchu rina, and they were all singing with all kinds of joy and happiness, v'shibchu elyonim v'atachtonim, and they sang praises to the upper and lower, v'az yashav al kisei kvodo. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.
This was much better than everything else.